sit on the banks when I'm feeling low. She plays with my spirit and she eases my bones. She's the finest old lady.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're calling the meeting to order at 6:01, the meeting of the Manistee Area Public Schools.
701.
7:01. Thank you. All right. Celebration of MAP success.
All right.
What do we have?
Accept agenda.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
while
right.
you're here.
Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those that approve say yes. All those that say no, no. Okay. Motion moves. All right. Celebration of MAP success.
And just for the record, Joel Raditz is here via technology, and Shelley Johnson is ill. So we have one here and one not. Well, it's my pleasure. I'm going to maybe turn this over to Lance here in a second, but it's my pleasure to have the newest member of the Chip family here tonight. And Lance, you want to tell us about it?
Sure. I don't know if anybody's been to a few games lately, but 350 Club's been working on this for approximately a year. And we finally come up with the idea to kind of stimulate our spirit in our school. And I guess I'll just cut it short. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chip. Chip was, what we did is we basically raising funds throughout our concessions and golf outing and whatnot, and financially we were able to purchase Chip. Chip was made in Canada. He was constructed up there. Same company that built some of the big mascots you see on TV. So we hope Chip will be around for a long time. He's a quality piece, and I hope everybody enjoys him. Thank you.
Hang on there, Mr. List. May I make a few comments, Mr. President? Yes, sir. First off, I'd like to thank the Lance, and I know there are a bunch of other
Amy
people.
Loftus and Mark
Mark
Sandstead.
Sandstead, a lot of people, but the whole 350 Club, completely volunteer organization. We have talked about at the board level, we've talked about, and you have talked about it at your level, but what can we do to increase school spirit? And I just want to thank you guys for the time that you put in, not only on Chip, but I know you put in lots of time on lots of different things. And but particularly for this, I want to say thank you to all you guys that have been involved. Thanks to the kids that are doing this, and it's just a positive. People trying to go out there and make a positive difference, and I want you to know it's
We've got plans for Chip too. He's going to be involved in, other than school activities. We had him up to Green Acres opening week when we were out to the elementary schools, and we're going to have him in a 4th of July parade, and any function that we can get him out and get him visible in the community is what our projection is.
Will he be able to take the ACT?
Absolutely. I think we probably. No, I think the actual input that we've had so far, anywhere Chip goes, kids are hugging him and high-fiving him, and his picture's been taken who knows how many times already. So we're having fun with it. It's going to be a fun time, and when all the outside activities come around in the spring and fall sports and cross country, we plan on having him everywhere, just like he's here tonight for the middle school game. nobody's excluded from who Chip is going to go visit, put it that way.
And
So-
for the record, no school funds went into the purchase of this. It's a 350 Club, it's a separate organization, they have a separate board that votes on how they spend their money, all the money's raised by volunteers. So, because I know we've already gotten questions on that, so.
Right, and another thing I would like to point out is, we bought the rights from Madewell Costumes on Chip's profile, Chip's actual picture. So the 350 Club actually owns the copyright to Chip. So anytime we have anything that's made with Chip with his picture, bobblehead dolls, wigs, anything to do with him, we'll be getting money revenue from it. So nobody else can use it without paying us. So that's what, that was our plan in the future, is to be able to have that income to hopefully pay for Chip.
Yep,
So, thank you for your time.
thank you.
Always groups like that do such a great job. That's what keeps our community going. That's how we can afford to do things. All right. What else do you have for us, John?
Math counts, was that going to be, there we go.
Okay, here we are.
Mrs. Smith and Mr. Bain.
We have some students with us too that we'd like to have come up, and then we'll introduce you all in a minute. I'm Kathy Smith, and this is Brian Bain, and we both teach math at the middle school, and we are super happy to share our experience at the Math Counts competition, which was Wednesday, February 5th. And it's just a local contest. It's put on by Jim Nordlin, local engineer. He leads the local engineer group along with the RISD and then the Mason Lake Oceana Math and Science Center. And there's actually, we took 29 middle school students down, and there were 208 total students that were involved in this down there, so that was 52 teams. So it was a really neat experience to see all those kids doing math. They actually sit down and take a written math test, actually 3, and one of those is a team competition, or part of a team work, I guess, to solve some pretty intense problems. And we were super happy. I think the kids all had a really good time, and we had some great results. They really represented well in terms of their attitude and their hard work and supporting each other. So for the second year in a row, we had the first place team, and that was Jacob Gustad, Maggie Blevins, Haley Harlan, and Blake Gates. And we also had 2 other teams that placed in the top 10, and then we had 2 individual students that went on to compete in this countdown round, which is really intense head-to-head competition, and Jacob Gustad emerged from that as the winner of the countdown round. In addition to participating, we got to go ice skating while we were there, and each participant receives a scholarship to take a math class at West Shore. So that was something to say.
I didn't realize that.
Yep,
That's
they do.
awesome.
So it's a great thing, great opportunity to do during the summer.
Save you some money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and anything else to add? I don't know.
Gosh,
Introduce these
you
guys?
did a real good job.
You have some great material to work with there in those students, but it doesn't happen without your work as well, Mrs. Germain and Mrs. Smith. So great job.
Great job.
Can we introduce so,
My 8th grade students that showed up have Raylan Danks and Chloe Papera, and Jacob Gustad, and Campbell Colt.
right, and, oh,
Go ahead.
okay, 7th grade representatives that are here tonight, Heather Antal, Katie Huber, and Jalen Thomas. And
Did anybody like to share anything from the competition that they enjoyed or thought was interesting or liked? Or
It was a great experience, and to notice that more people care about their education to even do extra things is great to know too.
I think it was fun to get to work as a team and individually because you can show your own skills and show your skills working together with others.
anybody else?
Nice job. All right, it's an awesome experience. So.
What was one of the toughest questions you had?
I don't remember.
You should. Jacob was in the countdown, and so they have all the what are those called? The
brackets.
The brackets. They have all the brackets, and so then when he won, they gave me that, so I posted it in my room. And it's really cool to see. He went through so many rounds to get there, and they're timed, and it's high pressure, and a lot of it's right up here. So they all did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a lot of great things going on since our last meeting. Mrs. Raditz, would you like to talk about Dominican Republic?
Yeah, the local Manistee Rotary Club came and spoke with me about possibly taking 1 or 2 high school students on their trip to the Dominican Republic, where they help at the orphanage, they help build shelters, and it's a really wonderful experience. And I'm delighted to say that not only did we have 1 or 2 wonderful students, but we had 4 that made the commitment, did the fundraising, went to a lot of meetings, and then finally got to go to the Dominican Republic, even giving up their Winter Carnival week, which turned out to be just a day, girls. So, not so bad. So I invited them here. We have some pictures, and I'm hoping you can stand up and tell us a little bit about your travels.
You guys can pass me around. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm Valerie Irvin. I'm Morgan Whitner.
I'm Kayla Leach. I'm Haley Mazer. We went down really, really late or early.
And thank you for letting us use
Yeah.
your hand. And I'm
Thanks
sorry.
to Mr. Chandler.
No comment.
The first night we got down there, we were all kind of uncomfortable because we didn't really know what we were getting into. Because you get there and there's, you can't speak the same language. Yeah, the food was different.
Everything. The first day, it was a long day, but then once we got to where we were going to stay, it was good. Although we went there to work, just seeing the differences between our countries, like Haley said, the food, and just everything, the way towns are set up, and I don't know how to explain it, but
Driving.
it's different. It's so cool.
And garbage, they don't care. They don't take care of it. They just toss it out the window, pile it up next to a building, wherever they see fit for it to just lay.
But we went down there to actually build a school, and because they don't have as much down there, they don't have machinery, so everything was done by hand. We had to mix cement, concrete, we had to haul mortar, haul blocks, and it was nice weather compared to here.
To say the least.
Yeah, but it was hot and it was tough. It was hard work, but I definitely do it again. It was a great experience.
In the week we were there, we laid over 800 blocks, so we got it started. And then they were going to finish it, and hopefully more Rotary groups would be down there to help put more time into it. But I think it was really eye-opening to see how little that those people had and how happy they were still. And they were so open and caring, and they always were willing to help. Every day the little kids would come take our gloves and take buckets of cement and stuff to the other workers, and they just wanted to help and talk to us and have friends. And I think we should all be more appreciative of the things we have and other people, just because they have nothing and they care so much more.
And we don't see that here. We see kids on their phone playing games. They take everything for granted. But those kids, they were just hauling our buckets, like Haley said, and it was just amazing because it's nothing like it is here.
Yeah, they find joy in the simplest little things. They could find a rock and play with it for hours, or a stick and play with it for hours. And one of the older girls down there showed us how they play these different hand games with different sayings and things with it, and they could do that for hours on end and never get bored. It makes you realize how blessed you are, seeing what they have compared to what we have. A lot different. Anything else?
And then we have, like, there's some people that we'd like to thank. Miss Raditz for all the work she's helped with
You helped us so much. It's crazy. Thank you.
And then Mr. Chandler for letting us use his van, even though it all didn't really get back to us, but it was the plan.
Almost made it back.
The Rotarians that helped us, and
From both Manistee and Gaylord.
yeah. And then we had teachers throughout the school participate in a brown bag auction or just give donations. And we had just people from the community donate and help out. And it's just those little things that helped make it possible. And we just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are you guys planning on doing anything similar?
I would love to go back to them.
Me too. Yeah, I want to, but it was kind of a pain in the butt to fundraise that much. But now I know and I have time and I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Something we can all work on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else to celebrate?
No, I think we're good. That's a good start.
All right. We're going to move on to public communications. This portion of the agenda is for persons to address the board. Public communication comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. This comment period is only for those items that appear on the agenda. There will be a second public communication or comment period near the end of the meeting for any other items. Chris is taking over for Shelley today. Do we have any items for this? We have 2 for the ladies. Okay, thank you. Any board or committee reports? Correspondence and superintendent's report. First on our agenda is the facilities plan with Terry Blanchard and Gemont Wunschke.
Yep. I'd like to, you did introduce Granat and Terry, and we have worked with them as we have looked at facilities issues over the last few years, and they're going to talk to you about, one of the things we talked about at a workshop months ago was getting a comprehensive facilities plan, and Terry and Granat are going to tell us how they and their company, GMB, can help us.
Well, before we start, I have 2 things I want to say. You touched the heart of Mr. Rotary right here, Rotarian, because he is very, very active, not only locally, but internationally and everything else. And I could just see him going, wow, you know, this is another cool thing.
Well, I have to say congratulations to the ladies, because I've worked in Honduras and Central America for the last 8 years doing Rotary projects, so I know exactly what they're doing, so it's great.
He was just telling me on the drive up that they were interviewing a young lady that's 33 years old and speaks 8 different languages, that she's going to get a scholarship from the Rotary to do some other things. But he was just sitting there with a great big beam in his face.
Great.
And then when Chip came in, I have to say this, that my grandson and daughter and son-in-law and grandsons live down in Bridgman, and my middle grandson is Buzz the Bee. So it was kind of cute to see, you know, when you have Chip come in and what have you. They're the Bridgman Bees. So we got to back up here a little. We're way ahead of the curve on this.
Thank you.
Well, we don't have the PowerPoint up first. What's going to start here? Well, you know, it's always nice when you have the opportunity to come back in and start a process over again. You know, planning for the future of your children and your community is really what this is all about. And facilities drive many pieces of that, as you all know. So Granat and I are here this evening. We're just 2 of our firm of 80, mechanical, electrical, structural, landscape. We have a full gamut of people that will be involved in this process as we go along, but we're always proud to come back in and help you make it better for kids and community. I'll just give you a little overview and then we'll get a little deeper into the process. What we want to do is update the previous facility audit, review how that fits within the code compliance issues, review the programming. We want to meet with staff for curriculum needs, review the needs submitted by building principals, and we'll do that through a survey. We use SurveyMonkey, and we'll help develop questions. We'll want to work with you folks and get the right questions and get that information out, as well as we'd like to interview through that SurveyMonkey some students and your community, obviously, as it goes. Review the sites, playgrounds, athletic needs, and your technology needs. We'll want to work with your technology staff to see where you are today and where we need to be in the future. As that moves around so fast, it's very difficult sometimes to even keep up with it. So then once we get a lot of that information, we'll prioritize those needs. We'll look at short-term and long-term plans, how we can do this financially, what that impact is to the community, and then we'll have to determine the funding source, whether it's a sinking fund or a bond issue. So, you want to talk a little bit about that, Gernot?
Well, you want to come back and say, okay, if it's a bond issue, a sinking fund, there are different projects you can do when you do sinking fund. There are limitations. When you go for bond issue, it's wide open because you establish in the bond language what's included in the work. So it's bricks and mortars, it's technology, whereby when you get into thinking fund, you're limited to that. I'm sure you're probably aware of some of those limitations.
And we're going to touch a little bit on that, a little deeper into this. So how are we going to begin, Gernot?
Well, needs the communication, that's number one, and that means that we have some face-to-face meetings, I think, right here, assess, each building. We'll look at, the facilities as far as barrier-free, as far as, what we have to do in order to bring it up to the state latest standards. That also means energy efficiency, because as we know, that the dollars have to be stretched farther and farther. And, if we can save on energy usage, there's gas, power, everything around it, that's what we try to assess. We need to look at, what's the enrollment projections, do you need brick and mortar additions to any of the buildings, is there, do we have a spike in enrollment in the lower grades so they carry through up into the middle school and high school? Those things will come up in the conversations and looking at, what's in the surrounding area, how is the school fed, the district fed, from the surrounding area. And we'll look at those projections far on the district level. Look at educational programs. We know not nowadays or today, technology is right up there. We have to be on top of what's going on. But it is also, exactly what you hear tonight. The students who are doing so well in math, that the curriculum is presented. How do we present it? How is the classroom set up? It's, we always say you can teach on the tree, but today it may not be true anymore because it requires, number one, the educator. Number one, it requires, somebody who is really has the facilities to do a good job in teaching the students and reach all the students, but also creating a surrounding area or a media center. How do we construct a media center nowadays? Yeah, we still have the books and we'll never get rid of them, but there are other means how to do that, and so we need to draw that out and say, how do we look at in the facility assessment?
Let me just add a little bit to that. We're doing a lot of designing with breakout spaces out in the corridors, where you can take 2 or 3 classes out into a corridor area where they can do team stuff together and work together and a lot of that. So that's all part of how that educational programming fits within architecture and those pieces and parts as well.
How do students learn today? I mean, it's through teaming, through interactions. They need some time together, but they're also in conversation. I mean, they're on a cell phone, they're on an iPhone. They do a lot of those things. But how do we channel them back in order to learn through the process? And so the setting makes a difference in that.
And then how that relates to your financial capacity. We'll work with your financial advisor. Once we have developed a program, what we'll do is we'll end up with that all into an Excel spreadsheet of some nature and get a community committee involved as well as the staff and let them see all the pieces and the parts and then start to break down to, okay, we feel like these are the core needs. Here's some of the wishes, here's some of the wants. We always have all of those, and then see where we can fit that within the financial pieces and parts.
In site reviews, we look at, what's the traffic pattern, where's the parking, how's the bus traffic working, because what we see nowadays is really a dangerous setting where students have to cross a lane where the parents drive in, or they have to cross some traffic pattern where the buses drive in. So how do we separate that? So that becomes a real issue when we look at the facilities and how they're positioned on site and how can we improve those.
And this slide really started with communications, and we have to bring that right back again. Community has to understand where we're at, why we're doing what we're doing, where we're going with the process. We're going to communicate that back in every method we can. With social media today, it makes it much simpler to get that information back out to the community, and so they understand what the pieces and parts are.
Every budget has some limitations, so we have to look at.
Would you like us to ask questions as we go, or just?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, anytime.
I should have said that earlier. I'm sorry.
Well, one of the questions, a couple of questions had dealing with facility master plans that in the past. And what are we looking, or the proposal for the time span? Is this 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? We're thinking at the time. And the reason I get to that, when you get to some of our facilities, you know, looking at that kind of the needs, the facilities review. You know, we have multiple facilities out there. We had our old Kennedy building. We decided to move away from it. So it was one of those that you look at that bigger picture. Are these facilities in the location we need these facilities? And then if we have existing facilities, we want to keep those. We have to expand on them. Does that play into it, or is it looking at just
Absolutely. No. It'll play into. And if you do a bond issue, that's probably going to be in the 25, 28, or 30 years. We want to fit something that we don't have to come back in 4 years or 5 years and say, oh, by the way, we need to do another. You know, we want to look at it as a whole. And again, sometimes you hate to say it, but is that the right building to close, or should we close? You know, can we do this to save this? So we're going to look at all of those pieces and parts and bring a recommendation. But we're going to gather as much of that community input, because 7 board member can say, ultimately, it's the community that's going to make the final decision the day they go somewhere to say yes or no. So they have to be totally involved and have the buy-in of the process. And one thing I do, I'll just say it right now, hopefully, we go through this process and through this effort. We keep the board informed, we keep the community informed. The board comes along with us, and on the night that they make the final decision, it's kind of like, absolutely, we're 7-0, we're going forward into this thing, we believe it. You know, and it's, let's not take their time and your time and other people's time if we can't keep you informed and you can't buy into the process when we get to the end.
Answer your question. I mean, there are limitations to the physical assessment of a building. I mean, we can look at, okay, what are the code implications nowadays? But code change, you know, every 5 years, 4 years, the state changes some rules. I think we are limited, but we can look at it and say, okay, how can it be adapted to technology? What's the future going to look like? So we have some measure, you know, how we can assess the building. It's not just, you know, physical attributes of carpeting or ceiling and lighting. With no lighting, of course, is a major issue right now is LED lighting. You know, we can look at that, but what's the development? It's kind of limited, you know, where we can go with that.
Safety and security plays into this huge too. We all understand that. I mean, we can say it can't happen here, or it can't happen over there, but the reality is parents feel a whole lot better about the fact that, you know what, people can't get into that building only through that pair of doors, and when they come through that pair of doors, they have to go into that office, and then they're greeted and released and turned out into the building, or somebody takes them somewhere. So that's huge all the time. So what's next? Once we have gathered a lot of that information, we're going to start to develop a bunch of options. It'll be options by building. You have the option to do this and this and this. What we typically do, we'll rank those on a 1 through 5. So then you start to say, okay, the 1s and the 2s will stay in the program, maybe 2.5, somewhere in there. And again, we're carrying a number over here as you move through that, but so we don't get you in trouble financially that you can't do some of those things. We'll know, working with your financial advisor, what your limitations are and what you can do as far as generate monies through either a sinking fund or a bond issue. And then we're going to communicate a lot of information back. We're going to evaluate all those options. Why are they important for our children and our community? Ultimately, our children, our community, their educational delivery, and your staff. How does that help the process with children like you just were talking about here, and the math students over there. What happened here? I went dead here somewhere. Where? They're looking for my email address. I probably did something wrong. Wasn't my technology. Okay. Evaluate the options, and then communicate it again, back to the community, back to the Board of Education, back to the staff. I mean, it really becomes a full circle process of communicating. And then go ahead on prioritizing the options. Do that if you like.
Well, I think, as Terry indicated, there are always limitations to what we can afford. We like to have what we can afford, and so those options really generated out of that aspect of what, what's the bond issue, what's the total number, what we think we can afford, and, in the assessment, I'm sure there are things which we need to say, okay, we can't afford now, but maybe that's something which we could do as an option. So that's, I think, how we prioritize, and then we'll make a decision, collectively a decision, what's number 1, 2, and 3, what's on the importance list. I think that's what we usually do in the process.
And again, once we prioritize those, what are the educational benefits? How are your children going to learn from that? How is that going to help the process? And not only your children, but your community. How is that going to fit within your community that gives them the opportunity to fit better in your community and those types of things? And how does that stuff fit into the long-term plan? And what are the immediate impacts of those items that we're going to put into the bond issue or a sinking fund that reflect back to your community and your children? And communicate it all back again. We can't say communication enough in this process. We just have to continue to communicate it, both to the Board of Education and the community members also, but in the community, the staff, and the students. So as we move forward, we're going to develop the costs on those, we're going to communicate it back, we're going to determine the funding source, and communication, that happens to be down the end if we're going to do a campaign once we've done all this, and a celebration and implementation. So, what is available? Funding capital improvement. What is bondable? Allowable use of bond proceeds, as Gernot said earlier. Non-allowable uses of bond proceeds. School loan revolving fund, and the Michigan Department of Treasury qualification process, which you did in the last bond issue, and you, the staff, the administration understands that piece of it. So, as we talked a little bit ago, there are funding sources. We can do sinking funds, limited debt, non-qualified bonds, qualified bonds. Most likely, Manistee is going to have to do a qualified bond issue or a sinking fund. The sinking fund is kind of a pay-as-you-go process where you would levy X amount of mills to your community. You collect that at tax time. You spend those dollars based on the taxable value, and then you do the next project. Each year you would do X amount of dollars with the projects, or if you're going to do a bond issue, you would get the money all at one time, you invest it, and then you draw it down away from the investment, and you do the projects you need to do over the course of 18 months or 24 months or however that process works. Want to add anything, Grant?
Just, the limitation, I think it should be made aware of that when you do a thinking fund, what can you do with the thinking fund money versus the bond? As I indicated earlier, with the bond, you can include everything.
We'll just go ahead and talk about that if you want. As I said, it's pay as you go. We still have to approve it. We still have to go out to the community and get approval. No more than 5 mills can you levy, not more than 20 years. That's been authorized from Section 1212 of the revised school code. And then here's sinking fund exclusions. You're not
right. That's what I was going to lead to.
Yeah, there you
Technology, because when we do the assessment, I'm sure we get into, okay, we need computers, laptops, iPads, you name it. And so it's heavy. It may be heavy in technology, but then if we go thinking fund, we're limited to that because we couldn't finance it with that. So that, some of this communication, we have to talk about it. And what you excluded, it's equipment and furnishings. We couldn't buy any new chairs or tables, etc., because the write-off at the time, with the amortization, is so short that they wouldn't let you use sinking funds because the long term. So then playground road maintenance, You cannot do building maintenance. So yeah, we can, wordsmith some of this and say, okay, this is remodeling, et cetera, versus maintenance. But again, the limitation, if it's strictly replacing carpeting, somebody may say that's maintenance. But if it's in the program for totally remodeling, so for instance, we have to do bookcases, lighting, et cetera, you can include it. But individual items, I think there are limitations. You say, okay, I'm just going into classroom and replace the classroom carpeting. That's maintenance, and so that's where sometimes there are gray lines, and we have to sort that out. But that's where we need to make sure that we fully understood what we can do with sinking funds. Preventable maintenance, some remodeling. Yeah, some remodeling is exactly what you could say. Replace the carpet, it could be considered some remodeling. And of course, repair costs less than $21,000.
I have an A to Z notebook. It's about that thick. The things you can and cannot do with sinking fund, and it's on the state's website as well. But we can help you with that if you would like to go with a sinking fund. Get approval before you do the work, as I said. All funds audited. One strike and you're really out. Have to ask for permission, not forgiveness. On sinking fund, amendment to the law being sought to modify that law to allow some of those other things like technology buses to be put into place. But that's been 4 or 5 years bounced around over in Lansing, and it hasn't happened yet. So there are limitations. What is bondable? Erecting, remodeling, completing, purchasing, equipping, re-equipping, furnishing, refurnishing, building new buildings, additions, remodeling. So it covers a whole gamut of needs in a district that you could do if you're going through a bond issue.
Really, everything which you include into this language, because we established a bond language, and the language will say, okay, this is for this and this. And, you're going to be wide open, you want it to be flexible, but this way you can include just about anything and everything you like to do.
And that still has to go to the voters. The financial advisors determine a millage rate of what the needs are based into a dollar amount. The legal counsel writes the bond language. As Gernot said, they leave it fairly flexible. So, but we have to hit all the things that we want to do so we can supply and furnish the project as we had promised it to the community.
Bond issue can include school buses, a lot of this,
correct,
because this is an ongoing maintenance, so if you need to buy it and include that. Bond issue can do it. You can do it through sinking fund.
What
about demolition?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do demolition
yes.
too. Right.
Yeah, that's Joel.
Hi, Joel. Terry. I'm good. Where are you? Down where it's warm somewhere? Oh, well, it's too bad you're not in Georgia. You're getting a little ice. Oh, I'm sorry. So allowable use of bond issues for sites you can acquire, improve, develop. If you want to put it in, I'm just going to say it. If you want to build a track, we can do that without any trouble. Buying the sites, making them or existing sites meet the needs of the school district. That's all bondable things that you can do in the process. And again, constructing new facilities, additions, remodeling, energy conservation improvements, asbestos abatement, refunding debt, direct costs, professional fees for architects, and construction manager if you use them, purchasing buses, and those types of things. Not allowable repair, maintenance, and maintenance agreements, salaries, supplies, automobiles, trucks, vans, portable classrooms you can't, uniforms, you can't upgrade your software, or computer training, or consulting, or maintenance contract. None of that's allowable in a bond issue either. Now, I'm not going to get into non-qualified bonds because your taxable value is in a position that you'll still have to go for a qualified bond issue. And what that means, it's unlimited in size, does require a positive vote of the electorate. The millage is set by the board annually to cover the principal and interest. We do have to meet the Michigan Department of Treasury approval. They may be issued for 10 to 30 years. Any questions on it?
Back to, the approval of the Michigan Department of Transportation or Education. There are limitations when, for instance, say, okay, with the real need here at Kennedy, we need to add classrooms. That will be strictly assessed based on student enrollment, projections, and current. So we have to be careful, so we say, okay.
That's why we get enrollment projection ahead of time, and then we go through and count all the classrooms, and we put that to a formula. They will not let you overbuild, other than we can overbuild by 15%, which allows you for 15% of growth in your students.
But all this has to be just sent to Lansing, and Lansing will review that and criticize or whatever, and they'll come back with some recommendations.
And Brad Hemmis in our office, who I work with, does all the bond forms and what have you for that. And I'm not going to get into a lot of this. I mean, I can get a little dangerous as you go through some of this, but it has to do with the assets and the technology has to be amortized. You have to spend it out the first 5 years. Buses you can amortize over 6 years. So a lot of people say, you know what, you're going to buy $400,000 worth of technology. It's going to be outdated in the life of a 30-year bond. Well, we're paying for that technology in the first 5 years, and we're paying for the buses if you buy buses over the first 6 years, which takes care of that. Furnishings and equipment, you have to amortize it over the first 10. So, but the financial advisors take care of all that. We give them the numbers, and they set it up so it's paid for and amortized in the correct ways. That's why they're an important piece of the process as well. I did put together a schedule. This is set up for every 2 weeks. At the end, it shows a November election. I had to put it against something. I would not encourage a November election because it's a gubernatorial election. I would, if anything, I would suggest maybe you go to the following February, or you could go to the May. There's 4 times a year that you can vote. It's May, February, May, August, and November. February is the last Tuesday of the month, and the other 3 are the first Tuesday after the first Monday of those months. So, but I did just so you had a little bit of an idea of how this would play out. I set it up and it shows a November vote, but we can stretch some of that a little bit if we need to move out into a February. And I'll just bump through this real quick. And it's set up so it falls within your board meetings and those types of things. There we go. But you'd have to, we have to go to the Department of Treasury, and there's all timelines for that whole process. Did they win over there, John? You want to check? Huh? Somebody made a 3-pointer over there. I saw the official go a little bit ago. So, questions, comments, concerns? I realized I went through it rather quickly, but when I saw the backside of the agenda, I thought, you folks have a late night too.
I just want to make a couple comments. One is just overall that Terry and Granat and GMB are not here to tell us what we should do. They're here to glean from us what do we need to do. What are the needs? We have roofs that will need to be replaced at some point. We have tens of thousands of square feet of carpet in the high school that will need to be replaced at some point. So they're here to glean from us what are our needs and our wants, and then so they're not here to tell us what we want to do. I just want to make sure that
you have all the options to make those.
Yeah,
you make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fit, and we're gonna gather all the data, and then you're absolutely correct, John. I appreciate that.
And I want to make sure that people remember that in the past year and a half, from the general fund, Howard, correct me if I misstate anything here, we have put almost $3 million into our facilities. The carpet you see on the floor, the roof on the building, lots of other things that you don't see. So we have taken tremendous amounts of general fund money because we had bond issues that didn't fail and we had needs. Now we pay for that over a 15-year period, but regardless, it's a huge amount of money.
You're still making a payment on it.
We're still making a payment on it out of the general fund because we had 2 millages that failed. And I like this process. It's a more deliberate, slower, more involved process than what we have used before. And the last comment I want to make is about a year and a half ago, Scott Crosby, who's then the superintendent of the ISD, came and shared some information about the amount of, it was a bunch of different information, but part of it was a piece of what he shared with us were our education taxes here in Manistee. And I don't know how people compare their taxes, whether they think they're high or low. I can tell you, education-wise, the part that goes to education, we have some of the lowest in the state of Michigan because we don't have a career tech millage. Our bonded indebtedness is down to 2.38 mils. We don't have millages that they have in other places. So if people consider their taxes are high, it's not education related. I want to make that point exceptionally clear.
Just a couple other comments too. First off, again, we're very aware of our funding issues right now. We're seeing school districts closing schools. We're seeing a lot of things happen. We had to go into negotiations. All of our staff had to help and take some reductions. So we're doing this to look ahead. We're trying not to be short-sighted. We're trying to do this so that we don't have to take these things out of the general fund. I mean, that's the basics. So we're trying to figure out what we really need. We're trying to plan 3, 5, 10 years down the road, and something that we haven't done the best of in the past, realistically. These guys are going to help us. It's not costing us anything to do this, other than our time and energy.
And ultimately, we want to be your architect of record. I mean, that's why we do this. I mean, let's just play the cards right up on the table.
So, it's a lengthy process. It doesn't mean we're going to be spending money right away or asking people for money right away. Let's all talk together as a community and figure out what needs to be done.
The thing I want to stress also is we can speed up or slow down. If we do not feel, let's just say, for instance, you're going to go in February. We have this all done, and February sounds like the right time. And we see something come along that something's not looking real good here. We can always slow it down, make sure we've got all the information in the community, make sure that everybody's comfortable with it. We want to do it right the first time. That's our ultimate goal. So if we need to speed up or slow down, we can do that. It's not something that GMB or Gannett and Terry are going to say, you have to. We're not going to force it down your throat. We're going to be in business a long time. We've been in business a long time previous, so we'll just move with you as the process goes through.
And then the only question I have, you have something tentative for a kickoff meeting? Is that something we're definitely set in stone? Or?
There again, I gave you a schedule just so you could see the timelines of how we think it ought to go together. If that's not a good date, we can work around, and I can reset a schedule based on that.
We made some assumption more or less, to give you some idea what it takes in between each of the steps, would be.
And the pieces and the parts that we do as we move along.
Well, I see it's a valuable process, especially I think there's the long-term facilities, what I would classify as the facilities master plan, long-term.
Sure.
And then the shorter maintenance and that type of thing where some of the things we're talking about.
Well, some of the real needs, I'm working with a district down south, and they're more leaving actually. I mean, we put together a great big list of stuff. They went back and said, let's pick out the core needs. And they're going to vote in May, and it's mechanical, it's electrical, it's technology, it's getting rid of the portables. They walked through 3 classrooms to get to the 4th. They said that's too disruptive, we've got to change that, so we're adding classrooms to their elementary building. The core needs are what they're saying we're going after today. But we have I hate to say the number, $63 million worth of need in that district. And they picked out 23 of it as their core needs, but they have a plan that extends them out for the next 20 years. And, we're going to do this and this and this. So the board has a working document that once we get these items taken care of, we can highlight them and get, and then they move forward from there. So if this board's not in place in 5 years, the next board has a document that they can work with.
I think that's a valuable part of it, that long-term, what's ahead of us and how we're going to deal with things.
Right.
And how you actually implement that is however you do it.
You know, Jen, I gotta say, even from Texas, I have to say, you know, we're certainly red-blooded Americans in Manistee. We have an opinion on everything. What we really need is a professional opinion. And Terry, we need the truth about these buildings. And it reminds me of the old, after we have the truth, it's our responsibility as a board to deal with it. And I really appreciate all the work that you and your company is doing for us.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity, and that's how we stay in business, Joel, is giving you the truth. Sometimes the truth hurts, but we'd rather give you the truth than to have you come back and say, you didn't tell me the truth, now I have this or this problem. So I agree with you 100%.
Anything else? If not, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is MCOE update.
You know, these next two items, if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Other than that, they're just included for your reading and informational purposes.
Any questions about the finance report? Howard, any general statements to make?
Nope, just here to answer questions today. We are working on budget amendments for this year and getting the preliminary stuff started for next year's budget. The goal is to have that to you in time for the work session and for you to take action at the March meeting to formally adopt the amended budget. Of course, the budget for next year will go through a process and we won't get that until June.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yes,
Real quick on the finance report, I wanted to mention this at some point in the meeting. This seems like the point to do that. I don't know if any of you watched 7 and 4 last night. There was a thing on Sutton's Bay, their financial issues, and we are in partnership with Sutton's Bay and Grayling on what used to be Yes Academy, is now Great Lakes K-12. It's an online school. To make a long story short, what happened was, or let me explain how that works, is that in an online school, you end up with a little bit, or a decent amount, but a little bit on a percentage basis. Your expenses aren't as much as your revenue. And whatever that extra amount is split 3 ways. Sutton's Bay gets a third, Manistee gets a third, Grayling gets a third. Well, the third that I calculated, and as the 3 superintendents, we didn't talk about what we thought our thirds were going to be. We looked at the budget, and you know, I guess we did it individually. But the figure that I put in there was considerably more conservative than what Sutton's Bay put in there, and we're going to be fine because we're going to meet our budgeted number, but they put in a much higher number, and so that was kind of the gist of the news article last night. They also have another online school in Jackson. They were it's a long story how they ended up with an online school in Jackson, but they have one, and they also missed their budgeted numbers on that school. So between the 2 online ventures and some other things they have going on, they were in they were in the news yesterday. I don't, 2 things. I don't see their issues impacting us, and 2, the number that we put in our budget is solid, and I see no reason why it won't be met. And I just wanted to make that comment because again, it was on the news last night.
So there's no possibility of them really defaulting on it?
No, they have to pay their obligations. You know, they may have to borrow to pay them, but they have to pay their obligations.
Thank you for being conservative.
Can I ask a question too? I know, Eric's salary we were paying out of our general fund, correct? And it wasn't in our budget. Are we billing them to get reimbursed? Will you let us know when we receive that?
Sure. Howard and make you a public member.
And is his contract now something?
As of January 1st. Yep, yep, it's all there. And then as we look at our study sessions or future board meetings, it is my recommendation that we do not continue this cooperative going forward. But then the question becomes, do we bring that entity back to us and do we operate it? And that's not a 5-minute discussion. That'll take some thought, some input from all of you.
Will you get updates from them? Will you get?
Yeah, we meet at least monthly.
Can you pass that on to
Yep.
us, maybe?
Thank you, Jim. Personnel report.
Yeah, just hired a parapro, Christopher Cohn and Michelle Salazar as a bus driver. And then we had, I don't think either one are, oh yeah, okay, hey, Kevin?
Yeah, Chris is here tonight. He works with a couple of our real challenging students. And he's done a great job and a great addition to our staff, so real great find in welcoming Chris to the staff and the area from Lower Michigan, so glad to have him. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. And then Craig Fuller resigned as track coach. Don't worry, Craig's still going to be involved. He's just not going to be the head coach. He's been involved for years and years. It's just been the last year or two that he took a paid coaching position, and I think he's looking out for the long-term health of the program and a transition plan. And, he's a great coach and a great person and has the best interest of the program at heart and will continue to be actively involved. So appreciate what he's done and what he's doing to continue looking at the program on a long-term basis. So that's the personnel report.
We have some reports from the schools.
Do you have any questions on those?
Any questions or comments? Snow days.
Yep, just right now, and we've had 7 and we get 6, so we have 1 to make up, and the day that is built into the calendar for that is Friday, May 30th. So at this point, keep your fingers crossed. And we're still, we keep an eye on the legislature and what they're doing and what they might forgive and those type of things. But as of right now, bottom line, we'll be going to school until Friday, May 30th instead of getting out Thursday, June 29th. And we'll keep folks updated on that.
Data review.
All right, in your, is Julia here? Yeah. All right, I just can't see it. Okay, that's one because I'm going to probably call on you at some point here. But in your packet, you have what we have titled Maps National and State Data Analysis. And we should have put that up on the projector for folks to see. But just want you to take a look at it. What do you see there? What do you notice? What questions do you have? Anything jump out at you? For the benefit of the people that are there, we have this Department of Ed top to bottom rankings, the Bridge magazine rankings, U.S. News and World Report rankings, and the Mackinac Center for Public Policy rankings, all of which rank some or all of our 4 buildings.
So the numbers on the top to bottom ranking, that they correspond to a percentage?
Percentile. Yep. So we were the percentile, not to give a statistics class, but you know, for example, Kennedy, we're in the 69th percentile. In 2011 and 12 in the 63rd percentile, in 2012 and 13. So we're, in this ranking, we scored better than 69% the one year and 63%. So there were only 31%, 37% better those 2 years, and then our other buildings didn't fare quite as well in that one. Though
this is state data, not national.
This is state data. Yeah, the only thing that's national is the U.S. News and World Report rankings.
So on that one, the 67th out of the number of schools ranked, we weren't the 67th, we were in the 67th percentile.
No, actually that one, they're different. They're all different. So this one, we were actually the 67th ranked school, high school, in the state of Michigan in 2012 and 13 by U.S. News and World Report. And that's a national ranking. Oh, it was out of 590. So we were, we were out of the, we were in the top, what, 12, 15%? We were 67th in that ranking. We were 67th out of 509. Yeah, pretty amazing. And that was based on college and career readiness, AP class performance, and ACT test scores. Yeah, we ended up with a silver distinction, and we talked about that at the board level in meetings, but those are things that we tend to forget sometimes.
But you mentioned this should be a national one.
The U.S. News and World Report, we were actually ranked, there is a national ranking, and we were actually ranked higher nationwide than we were, not 67th, but again, if you look at this, I don't know the exact percentage, but we were in the, my brain's not working right now, but whatever 67th is out of 590. There were like 22,000 school districts in our high schools in the country, and we were ranked higher, respectively, out of those 20 or 2,200. Whatever it was, nationally we were ranked actually a little higher comparatively than we were on the statewide. But both were very good, and I could get you that national ranking for next time.
Is there a reason, like on that Bridge magazine, that we changed so much?
Well, I will tell you, on the Bridge magazine, you have 2 different scores in 2 different years. So we're not really comparing apples to apples. That's a good point. I wanted to see what you noticed here, and then we'll get into explaining it. So if you look at the 4th grade in 2011 and 12, the Bridge magazine compares your test scores, which are basically our state standardized tests, and they factor in your free and reduced lunch count. It's because there's a direct correlation between the income and achievement. The higher the income, the higher the achievement, so they factor that in. And what they do is they come up with a calculation based on your demographics of your district. How are you doing compared to what research would indicate you should do? And a score of 100 in 2011 and 12 meant you scored right where you were supposed to. A score of less than 100 means you scored a little bit less than they would have anticipated. A score of more than 100. So as you see, we were kind of up and down on the, they ranked 4th, 8th, and 11th grade, and we were a little higher in some, a little lower in some. Overall, our district was just about, it was 100.62. So our district-wide in 11 and 12, we were just a little better than they would have anticipated. And then the next year, that score, that academic champ score, is the same type of score from one year to the next. So we we actually improved. We were 102.29%, so we did a little better, even more in 12-13 than we would have anticipated. But as you look at those other things, then those are just rankings. Instead of doing this score, they just ranked us. So out of 540 districts, our 4th grade was 205th, our 8th grade was 175th. So they changed the scoring on some parts of that versus other parts. So it's really...
It's apples and oranges.
It's apples and oranges on parts of it and apples to apples on parts of it.
Because look pretty good there, and then the comparative, like, wow, we didn't do something,
Yeah.
but they're different.
They're different.
That top to bottom ranking, and that ties with some of the issues with the school, but yeah, we're not at the level we probably need to be on those at all.
No, and I don't think you'll get any argument from us that we think we can do better, and we're putting effort into doing better. You know, the Mackinac Center scores, while most of these others were one-year scores, the Mackinac Center scores took 4 years of scores. And there again, their rankings were based on 100 being what you should score, and in those we were above in every single building. And then they also have a percentile rank. So over a 4-year period, we performed better than they would have anticipated. What do you notice when you take all 4 rankings together? Do you have any thoughts on what story does it tell? Could certainly make that argument.
Yeah.
And, you know, my big picture is we're average. We're in the mediocre
Could make that one.
range. You know, it's all how you interpret the data.
Yeah.
To me, it tells a confusing story, because we're exceptionally highly ranked in the state and national U.S. News and World Report, and then you look at the MDE, which is just flat out test scores. There's no, and we don't look as good as we want. And then you look at these other two, which factor in some things, and we're doing okay, doing pretty good. So.
Well, that top to bottom is that these numbers are a comparison of 30% of test scores to the lowest, top 30% to the bottom. It's not a overall.
Actually, we made an edit, and we didn't get the newest one up. Okay, so what this does is it
if it's comparing, I can see that. If it's just top to bottom,
yeah,
then
well, that's how you get to be a focus school,
right,
which we have two, is when you compare your top 30 to bottom 30, and you have a large gap. And as Joel pointed out at one of our meetings, you have Okemos, which is one of the highest performing districts in the state. Wasn't it Okemos, Joel?
Yes.
That has a focus school, not because their kids aren't achieving, but because there's a large gap, and we don't want that gap. We're working hard to eliminate it, and those are some of the things that we're going to talk to you about in the future. Is what are our goals and objectives, and the things that we're putting in place to address these things. What is the data that we're collecting on that we want to share with you coming into this. So
This data available about this time of year, is that?
well, the top to bottom, we just got BEEP data, but has that been released to the public?
No, it's still embargoed, and at the study session, you'll have a sneak peek at it, but definitely by the March board meeting. And the top to bottom ranking is, you get to look at it in July, and it's made public in early August.
These come out at different points in the year, and actually somewhere on there, did we include that? Yeah, we kind of included a proposed calendar, and I thank Julia for putting that together, when we would propose. This first time through, we're probably going to be giving you pieces here and there because we aren't into a cycle yet, and we want to catch you up on some things you haven't looked at. But, you know, we will get you the data, you know, in the time that it makes sense to us. If you want something different, then you can just ask for it, and we'll do that. And I guess I'd like to just maybe make a comment. The board did a self-evaluation within the last month. I don't remember when it was. Pretty comprehensive, several-hour self-evaluation. They took a survey prior to getting to the meeting, and then the results were collected, and then we went through and we talked about things. It was facilitated by the School Boards Association. And one of the things that we came out of that meeting was that we were going to start focusing more at the board level, and the board superintendent team looking at data, and student achievement data in particular, but not strictly student achievement data, but mainly that. And that's a growth thing for this board, for me, doing that, and this is just the start of it. And the way that we've talked about it is it's a funnel. We're going to look at the big picture thing. So this is pretty big picture when you're talking how do you rank in 3 state rankings and one national type ranking. So that's up here at the big picture, and then as we come down, we look at our various MEEP scores, and then maybe we even get down into some of the data that we collect, whether that be our DIBELS progress monitoring or different things that we look at doing down specifically, so we can show the board what we're doing and what results that's getting, and you guys are you're completely in that policy and process monitoring mode that is that is the board's function. So a lot of positive, I think, is going to come out of this, and this is the tip of the iceberg, or the more appropriately the big part of the funnel that we're just starting into.
Something we need to look at. It's hard to understand. It's hard to interpret all this data, all the different things, and there's so many different ways to do it. But the goal is to get a decent understanding of it, and then help our principals, administrators figure out and teachers figure out the best way to achieve what we need to.
And anytime we give you data, we'll, like at the workshop, we'll have more time with it, but feel free to get back and, we'll go right through it as much as you want to understand it. There's some hyperlinks that Julie included over there too, if you want to, if you really want to get into that stuff, you can look at that. But we will try to give you, we will always give you what you ask for, but we'll try to anticipate what you might like and ask you about that and get that to you. But again, I think what this tells us is that depending on the ranking, we look pretty darn good, or we look like we've got some work to do. And I think that's probably accurate, that we have a lot of great things going on in this district. We have a staff, and I always like to say when we have something that we don't look like as good as we want to, our staff works at least as hard as any other staff, is as competent as any other staff. We just have certain challenges, and we're trying to brainstorm and test things, and we're making improvements in some areas, and I think your role here at the board level is going to be key to that.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Let's move on to old business then. Neola policy is the second read on this. Any questions from the board or comments? If not, then we'll move on to the ISD truancy policy, the second read. Anything to say about that, John?
No, I did see that on NACM approve that in the paper, yeah. And just to make sure, the way this was written gives us flexibility to implement our own district attendance policy. what this is that as schools, if a student works their way through the ONECMA policy and gets referred as being a truant student to the ISD, or a different student who works through a different process at Manistee Area Public Schools and gets referred to the ISD, when they get to the ISD, how are they going to be treated? Well, they're going to be treated the same. That's all this is.
Any other discussion about it? Move on to the debate about graduation dates, 2014, 15, and beyond. The question was, do we want to think about changing the dates? And we kind of went back and forth a little bit with that. Anyone have any strong thoughts about it? No? Good. Let's move on to action items then. Business action items.
Do we have to do anything with that one?
The graduation dates, without affirmative action, it would just stay as it is, which is the Saturday of Memorial Weekend.
That gives everybody plenty of time to plan for it. Okay.
Business and action items. We have some meeting minutes. There is a correction to the January 8th regular board meeting minutes. Nancy, what are those?
Yes, item number, under business action, the corrections on number C with the January 8th, 2014 accounts payable report. There was a typographical error. It should reflect as $213,812.57. Under D, Neola policies, it should say V27.1 versus 26.1. Both are just typographical errors. And otherwise, we go for a motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from January 8th, the regular board meeting, the January 8th closed session meetings, and January 29th special meeting, and January 29th closed session meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Chris, second by Tom. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, say no. Can we hand?
Yep.
Nancy.
All right. I took it there. There you go.
Next item is approval of Neola policies. Any further discussions or motions?
Move that we approve the Neola policies as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Jim, approved, second by Tom. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. Okay. Motion passes. Next item, approval of Manistee ISD truancy policy. Any further discussion or motions?
John, you recommend this, right?
Yeah, recommend.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Jim. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. Okay. Motion passes. And approval of accounts payroll report dated February 12th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve expenditures of $378,253.26.
I'll second that.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Tom. All those in favor, say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes.
May I ask a question before we go to public? Did we make it clear that, I think we did, but did we make it clear that that facilities planning process that they will guide us through is at no cost to the district?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's move on to second public communications. This portion of the agenda is for persons to address the board. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. And we have 2 individuals here.
Is it too late to apply this before noticing?
I don't think it's too late.
It would be okay. Why don't you bring that up?
There you go.
All right, first off, we have Don Brown with some questions about the pool and administrative staff.
All right. Well, I'm a hairdresser. My average client stays anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending what they're having done. We talk hair for about 5 minutes. After that, we talk about everything that's going on in the community and what's going on in our school. So during contract negotiations, there were repeated conversations. And so after a while, I start to think, everybody wants the same answers. So one of the areas that we talked about a lot, that people were talking about, was 2 years ago during contract negotiations, when the teachers made concessions, there was talk of at least one administrator being cut that following year. And then that never happened, but then here we were asking our teachers to make concessions again. The question is, what changed that made it so we didn't need to cut an administrator? Or was it, nobody wants anybody to lose their job, but at the same time, when you're asking our teachers to take pay cuts and then we don't see what was in the paper that it was going to be a cut and nothing happened, it becomes a little concerning. Another thing that people are always talking about is our swimming pool. It's a beautiful pool, beautiful facilities, but how do we make it pay for itself? I have clients that say they bought pool passes and they didn't renew them because it's not user-friendly. The swim team uses it, you got classes using it, so they bought passes the first time, but they're not buying passes again. So is there a cap on the pool, like say $85,000 out of general fund? What's the cutoff point? What if some point it costs $95,000? Do we just keep taking from our general fund? What are we doing as a district to fix this? Because I have clients that volunteer at the pool, and they like, well, it's no wonder it's losing money. It's not run right. Do you have meetings with your volunteers? Because they're the people that are dealing with everything and seeing what's going on. Sorry, I'm emotional because your little plan thing you had here tonight was insulting to me, that took place after we just had pay cuts for our teachers. Yes, those are long-term goals, but our teachers just took pay cuts, and we're looking at expanding facilities and what needs to be done. And from what I hear in the community, there isn't any way you're going to get a bond to pass until we start stopping some of the bleeding that's going on already. And I've told John this before. Our bumper sticker, Manistee Area Public Schools, where kids have it all, bad bumper sticker. Why would I, as a taxpayer, want to pay more taxes when our kids already have it all? Kids aren't supposed to have it all. They're supposed to have what they need. They need good teachers that they have, that have made concession after concession. And it's saddening to me that you just keep asking more of them without asking more of people to fix the pool problem. We have 2 athletic directors. Was that my 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, let her finish her last thing.
No,
Please.
no.
We understand. Let's hear from the rest. We may have comments or not. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Margaret Shoemate.
I was actually supposed to go first, but that's okay. I kind of actually have
We're talking about pools, computers, and lunch hour.
Yep,
All right.
okay.
Oh, the Manistee River, she runs by my home. I sit on her banks when I'm feeling alone. She plays with my spirit and she eases my bones. She's the finest old lady that I've ever known. My daddy was a blind man, although he could see. He raised up my